Okay, a quick question on market size and market share variance. Market size basically means that how much is the market overall? Is the market increasing in size or reducing in size? This is not in our control, right? We cannot change it. The market share basically means that how much of that market do we have, right? This is in our control. Now, the one that is in our control, we'll call it operational variance. So basically, market share variance is operational variance, and market size variance is not in our control. So that's the planning variance, right? Now it says Hudson has sales budget of 400,000, right? So that's the original budget. This is the original budget for the coming year based on 20% of the overall market, right? This 400,000 is 20% of the overall market. So that basically means that the overall market was 2 million, right? So out of 2 million, so if this is the overall market, 2 million, right? We were actually planning to have 20% of that market. So if the overall market is 2 million, we are planning to have 20% of that. And this 20% is 400,000, right? Hudson makes a profit of $3. So that's the per unit profit. So that's the standard profit margin. Actual sales were 450,000. So rather than 400,000, we were able to sell 450,000, which looks like a good job. Okay. But the industry report showed that the total market volume had been 2.2 million. Let's ignore this line and let's focus on part A. Part A says, find the traditional sales volume variance. Now, the formula for the sales volume variance is actual sales minus the budgeted sales into standard profit margin. Actual sales is 450,000 minus the budgeted sales, which was 400,000, multiply by the standard profit margin of 3, which will give us 450,000 minus 400,000 multiplied by 3, which is 150,000. So yes, we can see that we have done a good job. Rather than selling 400,000, we managed to sell more units. So we have a favorable sales volume variance, right? But now we want to see that how much of this is in our control and how much of this is not in our control. In other words, I'm saying that we are going to subdivide that into market size and the market share variance. Remember, the overall market is 2 million. So the question says, but the industry report showed that the total market volume had been 2.2 million. So it means that the overall market has increased in size, right? So the market is getting bigger. Rather than 2 million, it is 2.2 million. So don't you think that our budget should be revised also, right? It should be now 20% of 2.2 million. So this is 2.2 million and 20% of this is basically 440,000. Which basically means that our original budget was 400,000. Our revised budget should be 440,000 and the actual sales is 450,000. Okay. Now, if you have to calculate the planning and the operational variance, so if you remember the rules that I gave you for the planning variance, what do we do in planning variance? We substitute the actual with the revised standard. So if you see the formula above in part B, if you are calculating planning variance, remember the planning variance is market size, right? Now in planning variance, what is the rule, right? Substitute actual with revised standard. So here is the actual number of units and we are going to substitute that with revised sales, which is 440,000. So I'll call it revised sales minus the budgeted sales in the standard profit margin. Revised sales is 440,000 minus the budgeted sales, which is 400,000, multiply by 3. So that's 120,000. 120,000 favorable. Now, what does that mean? We have done a good job. Our sales volume variance is favorable 150,000, but out of 150,000, 120,000 is not in our control. The market size has increased, and that's why we have a favorable variance, right? Now, if you calculate the next one, which is the operational variance, and that operational variance is basically market share. So what's the rule now? In operational variance, what do? We substitute the original with the revised standard. So this need to be revised. Okay. Rather than the budgeted sales, we are going to write our revised budgeted sales. So the formula will become actual sales minus revised sales into standard profit margin. So actual sales for 50,000 minus revised sale, which is for 40,000, multiply by 3. Now this will give us 10,000 multiplied by 3, which is 30,000. So 30,000 favorable. Now you can see that our overall volume variance is 150,000 favorable. Out of 150,000, 120,000 is not in our control. That's because of the uncontrollable factors. And this 30,000 is because of the controllable factors. So basically, the manager should be rewarded only for 30,000 because that was in the control of the manager, that the manager was able to sell more units. So that's why we are having a favorable variance, right? This 120,000, he was lucky that the market share increased, and that's why he was able to sell more. Okay. So that's how you actually write it. Now, this is one way of writing it, just in case if you are doing it in exam, and if you don't want to do it like this, you can also do it like this. You see, the formula for the sales volume variance, you know that it's, as I've mentioned above, actual sales minus the budgeted sales into standard profit margin. This can be written like this also: actual sales into standard profit margin minus the budgeted sales into standard profit margin, right? And in the middle, I'm going to write revised sales into standard profit margin. Now, the first minus the last will give you your overall sales volume variance that we calculated above was 150,000 favorable. That's the sales volume variance. And this minus this will give us, the first minus the second is going to give us our operational variance, which is 30,000 favorable. That operational variance is basically your market share variance. And this minus this will give us 120,000 favorable, which is our market size variance, which is not in our control. Now, if you have to discuss it, then of course you can say that, well, initially when we look at the calculation, it looks like the manager has done a very good job and we have a favorable variance of 150,000. But when we further analyze it, we realize that, well, that 120,000 was not in the control of that manager, though it was looking good. But yes, it was just because the market size increased. And this 130,000, this 30,000 is basically in the control of the manager, and he should be rewarded or she should be rewarded for this 30,000, right?